Haunted Hangover presents Haunted Hall.
Welcome to another edition of Haunted Hall. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by...
I'm Minnie. Yep, right over your face. There's my omen pin.
There you go. That's why you talked over me, because you have a fucking omen pin.
I was excited. I wanted to show it off. This is really fucking cool.
That is pretty cool. What is
right?
this?
That
just
is 666
awesome, all around?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my buddy Ken, Zombie Gentleman. That's my friend Ken. He makes these things. I got a bunch of cool stuff from him. I have like cool patches and shit that he makes, and he does like record mats and stuff. Oh, you know,
nice.
Yeah.
I think I might have met him at an event we were at together. I think you might have introduced me to him.
Oh yeah, at the horror screening at the Belmore Playhouse.
Yes. That's where it was. I
guy
figured
with all the
I met him. Yeah, it rang a bell. So, and that's as exciting as Manny's gonna get in this episode. That's as excited as you're gonna get.
I have myself a drink here to to get through it.
You've got yourself a alcoholic beverage. I'm drinking some water. No booze for me today. And the reason why Manny's not excited is because we're going to be talking about the 1988 film Lady in White.
You have just one hope to solve the mystery.
Sometimes when someone dies violent, they can't rest in peace.
To stop the evil.
Where are you going? I gotta follow her.
To save your life.
I'm here, child.
Open the door. Say your prayers. Lady in White.
A little behind the scenes tidbit. I told Manny, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I was like, yo, I want to cover Lady in White on the show. And you were just like, just the deepest sigh. And all you said was, that movie is so boring. Yep. That was literally what you said.
Yep.
When you talked about it. Well, when you mentioned it to me, like your reaction to me mentioning it to you, that I wanted to cover it on the show.
Yeah. I felt the pain in my chest. I felt it. It dragged me down, and it said, "Oh fuck, you gotta watch this shit again." Before we get into the movie itself, can I give you my experience with the film?
Go for it.
I never saw this when I was young. Okay. And that could play a part of it. Okay. As to why I didn't see this when I was young. I want to say it's early 2000s. Early 2000s. This film disappeared, and it was really hard to find. Okay, it was a VHS release. Okay, it was released to video cassette, and then more or less that was it. I think there was a limited DVD at some point.
2005, I think. 2008, around there.
So this was even before then.
Okay.
This was early 2000s. I'm talking like 2002.
Okay.
All right. The videotape at that time was going between $200 and $300 because it was it was really rare. It was a hard to find cult.
I did not know that.
Yes,
I didn't even know that.
Yep, because as you said, the DVD was 2005, so there was no release between the videotape in 88, 89 until that's what is that, 17 years?
Yeah.
That there's no release.
I believe the DVD release was celebrating the 20th anniversary.
Okay.
So
then you're looking 2000...
Some of that's ported over to this Blu-ray we're going to be talking about.
Okay. So you're looking 2007, 2008-ish then
I
for
believe
the DVD.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you remember my friend Anthony that I used to work with? Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, around that time the videotape was going for a couple $100, and randomly I found a near mint videotape. Like, this had been sitting on a shelf and not touched for years at some thrift store or a Salvation Army or something.
Okay.
And I got it for like $3.
Amazing.
Yes, incredible. I'd never seen it. I'd never seen it. All I knew that this was like this hard to find, movie, and I knew that it was worth a lot of money because it was just one of those films. Because I've always collected, so I knew that this was a hard to find film and it was worth something. And I was like, $3. I've never seen it. I don't care. I got to take it. So even if this movie sucks, I'm going to sell it. But, seriously. I mean, really.
I get it, yeah.
You buy a movie for $3, I know I can get $200 for this. I'm buying this shit right now.
All profit.
That's it. 100%. I might not even watch it. Just sell it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Anthony happened to be over at my place and he saw it sitting there and he's like, oh my God, I haven't seen this since, and he's like, I remember seeing this in the movie theater. This was really creepy. He's like, oh, I want to see it. So he wanted to borrow it from me. And he borrowed that. He borrowed Freddy's Dead, the videotape that was from the box set.
Yeah.
So Freddy's Dead, and like 5 or 6 others. And he's like, I'm going to take it home. He had just gotten an apartment with a roommate because remember, him and his wife were going through a divorce at the time. He had just gotten an apartment with his roommate, old friend of his, also from the time way back then. And he's like, I'm going to watch some movies. I just want to feel like a human being again,
Yeah.
I got my TV. I got myself a VCR. I'm going to watch some horror movies. And I said, all right, cool. So I let him borrow. He took a bag. He went home. Let him borrow a bunch of movies. And then I don't hear from him for about 2 weeks or so. And at the time I was working with him. So the guy wasn't showing up to work. I'm like, what the hell happened to him? It turns out at some point his like a couple days after he left, him and his ex-wife were still fighting. She had him arrested for missing child payments or something, and he spent the weekend he spent the weekend in jail. Like they had she put a warrant out for him, and anyway, so he finally gets back to work and he tells me he's got some bad news for me. He's like, I'm really sorry, blah blah. I said, okay, what's up? In the weekend that his wife had him locked up, his roommate took all the tapes and his TV and his VCR and sold it for crack.
Oh my God!
No
Typical
exaggeration.
Crackhead move.
No, literally, I'm not even exaggerating. Literally,
Horrible.
sold it for crack.
Yo, pause for 1 second. I want to meet the drug dealer. That's like, yo.
I don't know. Okay.
What do you know? But listen. What do you
I
got?
got this tape here, brother.
I got this copy of Lady in White and Freddy's Dead. Here you go. Here's some crack.
All right. I don't know for sure that he gave this to the drug dealer specifically for it, or maybe he took it to a pawn shop, got like maybe $10 for the TV, the VCR, and all the movies.
Possibly.
Quite possible.
But there are occasions where the crackhead goes to the
I know
drug
this
dealer.
shit. I'm taking this movie, son.
All I've got. This is all I've got.
Yo, you got that Lady in White there. Yo. All right. Here's a bag right here. Here's the shit.
It would be amazing if the drug dealer knew that the Lady in White.
What can I get for Lady in White? Here, right here. You got that right there. There you go.
One little bag of crack.
Here's your little bag.
That's
an earring. That's an earring. But here's your crack for Lady in White. There you go.
You've got a crack vial size bag there with an earring in it.
Yep. So no bullshit. He sold it for crack or crack money.
Oh God.
And I said to him, I was like, okay, I don't remember what the other movies were because I wasn't concerned. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit. I said to him, I was like, you know what pisses me off the most about this? I said, the fact that he sold a movie that I could have got a good $200 for. This motherfucker probably got a quarter. Okay, he got a quarter.
$10 for everything.
He probably got $10 for everything. He got one hit off that shit. I said, this fucking guy took it. And on top of that, I said, and then what annoys me, the second part is that it was Freddy's Dead. Now you had that set too.
Yes,
when you look at that Nightmare on Elm Street set, it was Freddy with his arms out like that.
Arms
Freddy's got
out,
no fucking shoulder now. Fucking shoulder's missing.
It was like your OCD kicked in whenever you looked over at the box set.
Motherfucker. So I had never even had a chance to watch it yet. I had just bought it. I'm like, this is gold for $3. Like, this is gold. I got a piece of gold brick in my hand right here. So I'd never seen it. So maybe I would say maybe a year ago or so, there was a Scream Factory sale and I bought some stuff and Lady in White was in there. I'm like, I can finally watch this movie. I think I got it for like $10. I got it. And I would have sold that movie in a heartbeat back then. In a fucking heartbeat. This bored the living shit out of me. Holy crap. This was... We're going to get into this, I'm sure. We're going to get into it. It pisses me off even more now that this fucking guy sold my movie. I could have had 2 honey in my hand. I could have had a couple $100.
Thank you, crackhead in Brownsville.
Motherfucker.
For selling the $300 tape Manny had in his possession.
Harlem wasn't Brownsville. Let's not don't stereotype that hardcore. He was in Harlem at the time.
Harlem, whatever. We're both from New York. We know what it is.
When this episode comes out, when this shit comes out, I'm sending him the link and I'm going to be like, you listen to this, motherfucker. Motherfucker, you listen to this and know that 20 years later, I'm still feeling the pain of your dumb shit.
Oh, my God.
Louis putting me through this shit and he's going to be like, fucking Louis. Fucking Louis.
You can blame me for making you sit through fucking 2 hours of this.
Who's going to happen? I'm going to say, Anthony, fuck you and your friend. Fuck you. Session 9 style. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Unfortunately, my story with this movie is not as eventful. So,
let's do the downer. You can do the upper.
I'm
going to take a shot.
So the way, there you go. Pound one down for your, pour one out for that
for the
VHS
homies
copy.
right there. Pour it out for the homies.
Pour one out for the VHS copy of Lady in White. That got sold for crack.
This
Yes.
fucking movie. I had to tell that story. I was like, very few people have a story like that.
Yes.
For a reason.
And I'm very happy you told it on the podcast. So
You didn't know any of that, did you?
I did not know this.
All these years.
So,
20 some odd
listeners,
years you've known
yeah.
me. Didn't know any of that shit.
Did not know that Anthony is responsible for your loss of the Lady in White VHS tape.
Yep.
But yes, my story, it's a way more boring. There's not much more to it. I blind bought this at Kim's Video when I was going there a ton when there were, the used DVD section back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, whatever. And I think I read about it either in Fangoria or Rue Morgue. And I just remember hearing that it's a fantastic Halloween sort of themed film. They really kind of sold me with the Halloween aspect of it, when technically this is not a Halloween movie. Just the first, I'd say, quarter of it, first 30 minutes is set on Halloween, and we'll get more into it. But yeah, I blind bought it, and it was that release. I'm about 90. I don't have it anymore because I got rid of it. I think I gave it to someone. I think I gave it to Tito, who's helped with Haunted Hangover behind the scenes on camera duty. But I think I gave him my copy after I bought the re-release when they first released the Scream Factory a few years ago. So I got rid of that. I don't even remember.
So that was the DVD. So you got the DVD.
It was the DVD that they released. I think the DVD you're talking about. Yeah, the one that came out years later.
The 2007-ish.
The 20th anniversary.
20th anniversary, okay.
Yeah, release. So that DVD, which at this point is also very old, I got rid of that and bought the Scream Factory Blu-ray. And my initial thoughts on the movie, I will admit it is a slow film, but I did enjoy it, and we'll get into it as we dive a little deeper into the film itself. But I don't have as negative of a reaction to it as you did, or an experience with it.
Colorful experience.
And I think one of the main reasons, and I'll say this before I jump into the synopsis breakdown of the film, I think it's because of the Halloween aspect. Just being a fan of the holiday and horror and kind of children's horror. And there is a comparison I've heard of, like, I've heard this movie being compared to another movie, and I'll get into that later, but more of like the ghost version of it. And you probably know what movie I'm going to talk about. Maybe not.
Yes.
And when I did watch it, I was like, you know what? I can see that. And I did not grow up with this movie. I didn't see it.
Okay.
I was already 19, maybe 20 when I first saw this. 21. I forget what age I was when
Yeah,
I watched it.
You
for
were
the first
about the
time.
same age as when I saw it. Just a couple of years later. Yeah, that's
It
true.
was around. I was
If it
around that age. Yeah,
It was
like maybe early
2007,
20s.
2008 versus me 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I didn't even know it existed until, and maybe because it was so hard to find, like you said, I didn't even know that. So
Yeah, it was a very rare film because it had not been re-released. I don't know why. I'm going to assume. Do you know what the original production company was?
no, I don't have. That.
I mean, I'm under the assumption it was something like Weinstein Company now, that it's
Okay.
defunct, and
Yeah.
because of that, it just sat there and nobody owned it.
Well, that kind
You know,
of when you
it's
think
quite-
about it, like Anchor Bay at one point, and I don't remember if the DVD was an Anchor Bay DVD, unfortunately, since I don't have it anymore. But like when you think about it, there were a lot of movies at the time in those, 2005, 2008, those few years where they were re-releasing films that were hard to find and didn't have DVD releases.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's probably what happened. It was just one of those films for years, didn't have any other release besides the VHS, and this DVD was the first to kind of remaster it in widescreen because the DVD was the first widescreen edition of the film. So I guess that's just what it was. It was the only other release besides the VHS. It was this DVD that came out years later.
Well, I'm looking it up because you know what? This is Haunted Hall. We should know this stuff.
Yes.
It was first introduced on VHS by Virgin Vision and later on by Anchor Bay in '93.
So it was Anchor Bay then.
Yes,
so that's what I'm thinking.
But that's
I had a feeling.
VHS. That's
Okay.
the VHS. It was also Laserdisc and DVD through Elite Entertainment, who released the director's cut on March 25th, 1998. The director's cut was reissued on DVD by MGM in 2005, which is the one you're talking about, probably.
Gotcha.
Bonus materials, 36 minutes of deleted footage and commentary from Frank LaLoggia,
Yes,
the director. 2016 was the Scream Factory Blu-ray, which had the never-before-seen extended director's cut.
Yes. So that's the version I had.
Yeah, okay.
That was my introduction to the film. It was the
that's-
director's cut.
So you know what it is? It's the fact that the VHS was still, like video cassette was still something that people were buying. And that's probably why it was so
why.
rare. It also depends on what version. If they did the director's cut on a DVD in 98, maybe the videotape was the theatrical version.
Yeah, you know what it
Maybe it
reminds
was
me of?
just a theatrical, and that's why
Yeah.
it was hard to find and worth something.
It
Like,
reminds
it's
me
like,
of a
the original
movie-
Star
Yeah,
Wars gold tape.
Exactly.
Like that.
That's what I was
like
gonna
this
say,
has a
yeah.
cut that isn't released otherwise. It's quite possible.
And like you said, going back to Anchor Bay, take a movie like Evil Dead. Like Evil Dead had its original release when it came out, originally, in 1980, right? 82, I think. And then Anchor Bay re-released it on VHS with that, I believe it was a sleeve first, then it was a hard shell.
Okay.
I believe I remember. So it's like for me, the first time I saw Evil Dead was on an Anchor Bay late 90s or mid 90s release.
Those like red and green clam cases that they had. I remember
which
those.
technically was a re-release.
Yes.
It wasn't the original VHS
I have a
because they were
bunch of movies
remastering all
like
the
that.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
So-
Spit on Your Grave and
Yes,
House by
yes.
the Cemetery, New York Ripper. I have all those. City of
And
the
all
Living
those
Dead.
were 90s releases, I'm pretty sure. And then the DVDs were early 2000s, mid 2000s. They were just re-releasing all of them with all the supplement, all the extra features and stuff that we all fucking know and love. That everything
Some of the
has now.
videotapes had them too. Some of the videotapes
that I don't
after
remember.
after the movie ended, they were special features after it. You'd get like a documentary or something, or
You know what? That does ring a bell. I remember
Yeah.
some movies you could like fast forward through the credits and then you get like a little behind the scenes.
Nightmare on
and
Elm
deleted
Street did
scenes.
those a
Yes,
lot.
Yes,
Bunch of Nightmare on Elm Street tapes, but yeah, Anchor Bay would add like a 20-minute, like because the tapes were like 2 hours and like 10 minutes. So if the movie was
Yeah.
short enough, they would tack some stuff on at the end.
Just to kind of
Mm-hmm.
at that point, that's when like horror fandom was blowing up. With Anchor Bay, that's where a lot of us first saw a lot of these, hard to find movies. All the Italian horror.
The original
basically.
boutique.
Yeah, it was like Anchor Bay had the rights to Zombie and Gates of Hell and like all the Dario Argento stuff and things like that. So yeah, like
Shit.
that's kind of that. Yeah, there you go. You have the Gates of Hell T-shirt on. It's always very fitting, man. You're always with the theme. The movie always comes up. I think these are just movies that we like, and they just always
It is.
come up. So we just have to get to those eventually. But before we dive even deeper, let's jump into the breakdown of Lady in White.
It was All Hallows Eve, and I, still locked behind the cloakroom door, suddenly felt a wind sweep through the darkness, chilling me to the bone.
So Lady in White was released on April 22nd, 1988. It was directed and written by Frank LaLoggia. Hopefully we're pronouncing. I think you butchered it earlier. Maybe
Possibly.
I'm butchering it now. So yeah,
Maybe.
Frank LaLoggia. Very Italian.
Is he dead? He won't care.
No, he's alive. He's alive.
Is he?
He's-
Well, maybe
he's
he will
very-
care.
He's
Fuck him,
very
gonna
much
sue-
alive.
He's gonna fucking sue us now.
No, he won't. And I will say this too. He also produced this and scored it. And you get the sense by some of the and when we go into the extras on the Blu-ray a little later, you can just tell this was Frank. I'm just gonna say Frank so we don't fuck up his last name even more than we already are. You could tell this was a passion project. This was the movie he wanted to make. Like you could just feel it. You could just tell in the commentary, in some of the special features, the story he's telling. He's in the movie. He is older Frankie. He's that character. Because when I get into the breakdown, you know how you see him and it starts off with that character older, but you never see his face. That's the director.
Oh,
so
okay. I didn't realize that.
And if you think about it, his name's Frankie.
Yeah.
So
No.
you can
Oh,
tell
man,
this was
original.
I know, but you could tell, and you should know, and I should know
I'm
this.
just gonna warn you. I'm gonna be shitty.
I know you are, but regardless, you gotta respect as the director for two directors here who've directed shit. When you're passionate about something,
Yes,
you
yes.
can feel it, and
Yes.
that's what I like about this movie now. As I've gotten older, revisiting it, is you could tell that Frank LaLoggia didn't give a shit and made the movie he wanted to make. Like this is his movie. You can
feel
just
like-
tell. This wasn't a studio film. This was a movie he wanted to make, and I believe it was an independent film. It was independently financed. So
Possibly.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And I think I learned that on the commentary. It's also based, the whole plot of this film was based on the White Lady ghost legend. That was kind of the seed planted to help write this screenplay, is what I gather just from what I read online. So it stars Lucas Haas as Frankie, who I will always remember from Mars Attacks
Yep.
and
Kid from Mars Attacks.
and Boys with Winona Ryder. I've always enjoyed
And,
that movie.
what's the name of the other one? The one that
He was in
I like,
Inception?
Mars Attacks. No, it's not.
He's
it
been
is
in a bunch of
Inception.
shit.
Yeah,
He's
there's
been-
one that I'm always like. I mean, other than Mars Attacks.
And Boys. Boys is another movie I always remember him being in.
I've only seen that, like,
I'm pretty
once.
sure it's Boys with Winona Ryder. Lucas Haas has always been one of those actors that's been in a ton of shit, but I feel like he never blew up. He never became like an A-lister, but he's been around
He's a
forever.
weird actor. He's very weird.
I respect
He's
him,
very
though.
weird.
He's
Yeah.
one of those actors, whenever I see him in something, I'm like, I like Lucas Haas. I don't know. I just...
Leap of Faith. Leap
is
of
he in-
Faith with Steve Martin.
Yes,
He's the crippled
yes.
boy.
You're
That's what
right.
I'm always thinking of him in. Like
Yes.
you said, we say Mars Attacks and Boys,
Yes.
but Leap of Faith is the one that's always. Oh, I always remember that he's the boy in the wheelchair.
And I believe this is his first leading role, and he's little in this. He's like a little kid. And I'll say this at the top. I think he's a little annoying at times, but that's usually children. But I don't think he's that bad for a child actor in this, personally speaking. Just my opinion.
I think, and this isn't a good or bad thing. I think that he was already an actor.
He already had it in
He-
him. He was already.
Yes.
I'm pretty
Yes.
sure this wasn't his first film. This was just his first leading role.
Solar Babies was before this.
Yes.
He had a couple
He had
other
experience,
movies.
basically, in a nutshell.
But
Yeah.
I think that he's I think he's a natural. And
Yes.
I don't mean that in his level of talent. I mean just in himself. He has
Gotcha.
this natural ability, and there are it's kind of hard to explain it, but like there are moments in this film where I watch him into this, and I can see him today making the same facial expressions, having the same reaction. Like, he's always doing this look, and he still does that today.
And he's almost 50 years old now, so imagine.
Exactly. So that's why I say, like, I think that he's already an actor at this point, which is why he was able to carry the film. And it's kind of like, either you like what he brings to the role or you don't. So if you find him annoying, then you just don't like the way he played the role. But there was nothing you could have done, I think, that would have changed how he played it, because I feel like even at that age, he already found his performance style. Like, it's just he's got this natural, this is what he does.
Yeah, he reminds me of Henry Thomas in E.T. a little bit, and this is after E.T., funny enough.
Okay,
and E.T.'s going to come up a little later.
I can see that.
But I feel like they both have the same level of, like, they're not offensive as child actors. They're annoying at times when they're screaming or doing annoying shit like most kids are in real life. But when they're dramatic, it works. That's what I felt in this movie. And Lucas Haas, whenever there's anything horrific happening or that it gets tense, you feel it with him as an actor. And I think it works. And you know, that's one thing I'll say about this movie at the top here is he's very effective as Frankie. And like you said, he drives it. And he's just a natural, like you said. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it, you know?
Yeah, as a child actor, I think he was like Christina Ricci.
Yes,
she's not the same, but I feel like she's not the same actor she is today as she was in the Addams Family. Her performance in the Addams Family was different from her performance in Pumpkin, which is different from her performance in Buffalo 66 and Black Snake.
Yeah, we both love like Christina Ricci, and even like me, like for instance, I'm a huge fan of Mermaids with Cher, Winona Ryder, and Christina Ricci,
and that is a totally different.
She's also like 9 in that, and she's
from
what do you mean? From that to
Addams Family.
Oh yeah, that was only a few years later.
2 years apart, and these are two completely different actors.
Exactly. It's weird. It's so interesting when you look at like just kids, you know, child actors. Some of them stick around, like Lucas Haas, Christina Ricci, Henry Thomas, who's great now. Whenever you know Mike Flanagan puts him in stuff. So like it's just interesting, just kind of the way their careers work out. Like you could just tell when a kid's good, they're good. Yeah. You know, and that's what you got from Lucas Haas in Lady in White, to me at least. The other kind of lead I'd say in the film is Alex Rocco as Angelo. He's Frankie's father. He's probably the co-lead in the film. He has a lot of scenes. He's from The Godfather. So
I will never not see him as the smarmy executive, record executive in That Thing You Do.
Yes, you're right. I forgot he was in
and he just has this. Like he sticks his gut out, and he's very like he takes the scene from everybody, and it's like one scene. Yeah, but I can't not remember him in that moment.
Yeah, he's great. He's good, man. He's good in this too. He's like, of course, he's like a middle-aged man at this point. He's very seasoned as an actor. But he was
a middle-aged man then.
He to me is the heart of this movie. Like the Angelo, you know, Frankie's dad, you know, that character's the heart of the film, and you're rooting for him too throughout the movie. I feel. And he just has super Italian, but it works because that's, you know, a theme in this movie. Italian, like, you know, I'm not Italian, but
Rochester.
Yeah, like you could just like, I'm not Italian, but even I'm like, all right, I know I have a lot of friends that are half Italian. It's you have a little.
You watch this movie,
right? Don't you have some? Isn't there Italian in your family?
Yes.
So there you go.
You watch the movie, you start talking with your hands, and suddenly, you watched The Lady in White. It was a pretty good movie, eh? Yeah.
You know, like Dave's Italian, Tom is Italian. Like a lot of people that are involved with Haunted Hangover, like, you know, like, so I have a lot of friends that are Italian. So a lot of their family members, they are like this. You know, their grandparents and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's like I know exactly. I can't relate to it, but I know it. Like, I'm familiar with it. You know what I mean? One more actor I want to point out is Katherine Hellman. She plays Amanda Harper in this from Who's the Boss?
Mona.
Yes. So I always... Mona. I forgot. I hadn't seen this in a few years, and I always forget because it's a small role. She's only in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
And I have more to say about that character a little later. But I also want to point out she was in the ill-fated Elvira show pilot that only had one episode that we covered on
that.
Patreon last year.
know
Yeah,
that.
she's
Oh my.
Dave and I covered it, I think last year on Patreon. So go check that out. Had to plug that there for a second. Go
Plug,
check out that
plug.
episode over on our Patreon page.
Plugging stuff.
But yeah, those are kind of the three actors to me that stand out. It is an ensemble. There is one other actor, but he's in my likes, and I'll get to him a little later. So Lady in White is told in a flashback. The film starts with an older Frankie who is a novelist from LA visiting his town of Willow Point's Fall, the town he grew up in. He's going back to go just pay a visit. We never really know why. He's just going there. I might have missed it, but I'm pretty sure it's really short, a short piece of exposition with a cab driver. And
Trying
you need
real
him.
hard to be Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes, Richard Dreyfuss, very Stephen King, and this entire film has a Stephen King, Ray Bradbury feel to it. And when we go deeper into it, I can explain why I feel it had to be influenced by Ray Bradbury. It feels very much like that type of movie, that type of story. I also can compare it to The Wonder Years because there's a voiceover comes back, older Frankie comes back several times throughout the film just to kind of narrate certain scenes and feelings and emotions that young Frankie's feeling during, which I did like. I do think it was a nice touch for this story that they're trying to tell. One more little detail, 1962 is when it's set. And that comes into play with a lot of different stuff, including, racism and stuff like that, which we'll get into a little later. But yeah, it follows 9-year-old Frankie, who on Halloween night is locked in a coat closet at his school by a couple of bullies, and he witnesses the spirit of a young girl named Melissa, who he basically... It's almost like a recreation premonition type of deal. Like she's a ghost and this ghost has unfinished business, I guess is the best way of putting it. So she's reliving how she was murdered over and over again every night at 10 p.m. That's kind of how I took it. And what ends up happening is Frankie sees this girl get strangled and he sees the perpetrator moments later.
Sound first.
He hears the sound first.
He hears something fall first.
And I think he kind of dozes off too. There's a whole sequence where he kind of, I think, closes his eyes and then wakes up a little later. It's a little while later that
the girl is clearly being attacked, but you can see her, but you can't see who's attacking her.
During her portion.
Yeah, during what he's seeing. Yes,
what he's seeing.
Yeah, what he's seeing, he only sees her. He doesn't see the attacker.
Yeah, you don't see the attacker at all because that's kind of the point of the movie. But yeah, the perpetrator, the murderer, comes into the room in search for something in one of the vents. And he ends up discovering Frankie. Before I go any further, I do want to point out I love the scene with the rat. There's a rat. Frankie's trying to hide.
Yeah.
And a random big-ass juicy rat is giant, like a sewer rat we see here in New York on the subway, is running across the cupboard because that's where Frankie's hiding and trying to go up his leg. I'm like, this is the bravest rat I've ever seen. You'd think it is a subway rat.
It's a New York rat. Yep.
Not scared of him.
He's from Rochester, dude.
Yeah,
Frank's from Rochester. Those are the rats he knows. That
rat traveled from the fucking E train in Roosevelt here in Queens all the way to Rochester.
That's it.
That's why the rat was so brave and was willing
Emily's
to come.
Taking care of it up in Sleepy Hollow.
Oh God.
Right now.
Yes. But yes. So the perpetrator, again, like I said, comes back. He's looking for something in the vent. And he ends up finding Frankie there because Frankie's hiding in his Halloween costume and he's pretending to be, I guess, like a coat or something. And the killer tries to strangle Frankie. And Frankie ends up having this weird 2001 near-death experience where he's rushing towards the sun and there's bad green screen. And what ends up happening is he meets up with Melissa at a grave, I believe it's
Melissa's
his
the
grave
ghost.
site. Yeah, Melissa's the ghost.
Yeah.
His grave site. And basically, Melissa wants his help to find her mother. Now, fortunately, Frankie's father shows up in the nick of time, and he's able to revive Frankie with CPR. Unfortunately, Frankie wasn't able to see the face of the attacker. So us as the audience and Frankie, we have no idea who this person is who tried to kill him and killed Melissa. We have no clue. And it's done pretty effectively because it's all shadow. And
it is.
And
even more unfortunately, there happens to be a janitor that works overnight, and he happens to be black. So guess who gets arrested without any question? Hey, motherfucker, what are you doing here? Come on, you're coming with me. There's literally that silly scene of them yanking him out of the chair, and he goes, "Whoa!"
Well, he's drunk.
Like, nonetheless,
he's drunk. Yeah,
it suddenly became very campy.
That scene, I will say, is a little hokey. Also, I don't want to get into the ending until later.
No.
It's very obvious who the killer is.
Yep.
It's predictable. You can smell it a mile away. So to kind of speed things along, we learn throughout the rest of the film that there's a child serial killer who's killed 11 kids over the last decade. Frankie would have been number 12. That's basically what you get from it. His brother Gino kind of makes fun of it. I do like that scene where his brother's kind of poking fun. Like, you could have been number 12 and been really famous. And
but he ended up being famous anyway. He was on the front page of the paper with that stupid look.
With the stupid look on his face.
The Lucas Haas look.
Yeah. But like you said, the school janitor, who is black, ends up taking the fall for it. He's an innocent man. Mm-hmm. And there are stuff about that I don't like about the film, and we'll get into that later. Mm-hmm. Again, he's wrongfully accused of the murders. And, you know, they play it up a lot in this film. This is when racism was running rampant in America. I feel like they did as realistic of a depiction. It's done pretty tastefully, except for one thing I fucking hate. But it's done pretty tastefully. There's one or two moments where I'm like, but it's not too offensive, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah.
In the movie.
It's like, I think it's kind of showing that this exists.
Yeah, it's hard for me to articulate it because
the level of racism exists, and this is the world we live in, and this is what we're setting the point. But they don't. I do feel like they don't get too deep into it. They make it clear without having to like really drive it. They clearly arrested him because he's black. And the
racism, it's not like every character is racist, because a lot of them aren't. There's only maybe one or two.
His father
is not. He doesn't even care. The cop, I don't take the cop. You kind of are like a little bit, because he has one scene where you're just kind of like, all right, he might be a little racist, but again, done pretty tastefully.
They made it where the father is basically ends up being the only person who's sympathetic toward the family, toward the guy's family.
Yes.
Like even the scene in church, which was a really excellent scene.
Yeah.
The whole church, because the janitor has been arrested now, and they believe that he was the killer of these kids as well. So his wife and two kids are in church, and the whole church, the mother of one of the girls was killed, starts crying. You know, so the priest is doing a sermon, and he does this, and she gets up and she looks at her. It's like, your husband, blah blah blah. You know, and the whole church stops to turn and looks at her, and they're giving her that look. So her and the kids start to walk out, and she just faints.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Yeah, and his father's the only one who jumps up and runs to her to see if she's okay.
Yeah,
and walks her outside and makes sure she's fine. He's the only. Nobody else even batted an eye. So they made it very clear that the father is a good-hearted person. And I think that scene alone sold it. Like that's what you wanted to show. What a good, kind person he truly is.
And that's why you're rooting for him in the whole movie. Like, you want him. He doesn't know. Like, he knows something is up, but he's not exactly sure what the deal is with this murderer and why this man is being accused of being the killer, where in his gut he knows this guy didn't do it. Why would he do it? He has kids of his own. Yeah. But I want to go into the whole plot with Willie. Willie's the name of the janitor. Okay. That whole situation a little later, because there's something that happens in this movie I fucking hate, and I think you know what it is. And it's one of the things we'll we'll dive into with the dislikes. And I know you have a lot of them. But yes.
Biting that tongue right now.
Yes.
Sucking on some blood.
But yeah, Frankie, with the help of his older brother, Gino, along with ghostly visions of the lady in white, you know, they go to investigate these murders, finding different clues involving a ring that was found in the vent. And they're just really trying to find the identity of the serial killer and bring Melissa's killer to justice. That's the whole point. That's basically what the whole point of the film is. It's a murder mystery. And the main character, for the most part, are children. You're following kids. And that's basically Lady in White in a nutshell.
Thank you, Frankie, for that very unusual story. And now, people, you may go to the cloakroom to get your coats. Alphabetically, A through E, please. And have a safe and happy Halloween.
I want to just highlight a couple of things. And the first thing I want to talk about are probably the strongest first 30 minutes to a movie when it comes to Halloween. That's what I want to kind of focus on for a bit. So I remember a while ago, because we have our series on the podcast where we cover non-Halloween movies with Halloween scenes, like scenes, movies that have Halloween scenes in them, but they're not technically Halloween films. And this film technically would fit into a movie that's not really a Halloween movie, but has Halloween scenes. But the only issue I think with that is a good chunk of the movie, and the main reason all this is happening is because of what happens to Frankie on Halloween. And like I said, the first I say maybe 35 minutes is Halloween. It's set on Halloween. It's Halloween night. And I think the way they portrayed, and neither one of us were alive in the 60s, so we don't know, but I think the way they portrayed the holiday is spot on. It feels like the autumn. You see the leaves changing, which is very hard to do in movies. A lot of Halloween set films can't do that. Today, that's usually missing. Like the Halloween movies with Michael Myers, a lot of the times they just don't feel like autumn because they're shooting in the spring somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's just, or California or something like that. So like it never feels like the fall. You could tell they put a lot of effort into making this movie feel, especially those first 30 minutes, like it's October 31st. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Just the montage of the kid throwing the newspaper, the delivery boy, Frankie and Gino riding their bikes, and Frankie wearing his Dracula mask with the cape. The scene in the classroom where Frankie tells the scary story and all the kids bring a jack-o'-lantern to class, and all the decorations and the skeletons on the wall, the paper beastal-style skeletons. Dude, everything about these scenes, fucking phenomenal, magical. Like just that one image of that classroom, and the kids are going fucking crazy, like in the class, which I love too. They're just throwing shit around and they're playing a record, and the teacher's like telling them to calm down. It's great. I just love everything about it. I think it starts off so strong, and maybe that's why some people don't like it. I could see someone watch this movie and watch those first 30 minutes and like, wow, this shit's going to be amazing. And then they feel it fizzles out. Mm. And I could totally see that. And I think that might play into maybe a little bit why you don't like it. I'm sure there's other shit too that you hate in this fucking movie. But I wanted to highlight that because I think that's one of the most effective things about this movie. And you always see Lady in White on list, must watch Halloween films, even though 90 minutes of this movie, because it's almost a 2-hour long runtime, don't take place on Halloween. Yeah. There's even a Christmas in this movie, but Halloween is so prominent, like even more so than Christmas.
Christmas than Halloween.
No, I checked. Christmas is only, there's like 4 minutes of screen time of like Christmas trees and Christmas music.
It feels like even in the final shot of the movie, when the house is on fire, they're using the burning embers from the fire, from the burning house to look like snow. in the final scene.
In that scene,
it
maybe.
looks like it's snowing.
I don't think that's what they were going for, though.
But I totally think that.
You think so? No.
I totally think that they did that on purpose. That's why I feel like it has more of a Christmas movie feel than a Halloween movie feel. Yeah, once that Halloween is over, I feel like this almost turns into like it has more of a Christmas story feel.
I don't see the reason why I don't agree with that.
Storytelling, the ghosts. I feel like it feels more like a Christmas story than it does.
I see where you're coming from, but the fact that the family lives on a farm with corn stacks, there's giant pumpkins on their porch. I get where you're coming from, but the Christmas portion is so like you never see. Literally the only Christmas scene at his school is almost in montage, and it's the limbo scene, I'm pretty sure, where like the teacher's doing limbo, and like you see like a Santa Claus. It's like montage style, whereas the Halloween portion is literally the first few, not even the first act, well, maybe the first act of the film. The first 35 minutes is Halloween. So I don't know. I get where you're coming from, but I also can see just kind of the whole kind of scary story, ghost story aspect of it bleeding into the rest of the year, the rest of the months. You know, I feel like this is something you'd watch during the Halloween season more so. Like, I don't see anyone picking this movie to watch during the Christmas season.
No.
My opinion.
No.
But I could see someone picking this for the Halloween season because there's so much of it that revolves around Halloween and all goes back to
There's
Halloween.
even the scene
night.
though when he's with the ghost in the Christmas tree.
No, yes, when she pulls the ornament off or whatever.
Yeah, like
so,
I think that's the second time he sees her.
Yeah,
so it's
possibly,
like he sees her on Halloween night, and then he doesn't see her again until Christmas.
They bypass Thanksgiving, which is
completely
crazy.
Fuck Thanksgiving.
I know, which kind of I love Thanksgiving, man. I don't know. So like, I was just like, it's Thanksgiving always gets the shit end of the fucking stick. Like whatever.
Yeah,
it always gets like it always gets fucking bypassed, man. It's so funny.
Murder holiday.
Oh yes, but like I said, I feel the Halloween. Like when Halloween is done in this film, it's done right. And I just think it's really strong.
I can agree with that.
That's just, I wanted to highlight that.
It looks good. It looks looks and feels like Halloween. You know, it really does.
Everything about it just to me works. The mask is, to me, more iconic with the film. I think
that
most people, when they think of this, like the Dracula mask, when people think of the movie, they think of that mask he's wearing. Frankie is a horror fan. You see the Aurora figures, the model kits all over his room. Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. You see him. So the kid he's a horror kid in the 60s. So again, that's why I'm leaning more towards the Halloween aspects of it in theme, more so than the Christmas. But I can see the argument. I respect the argument that it could be a little more Christmassy.
I think maybe it's possible that as you said, Frank Loja is heavily in the movie, like it's him. So I do feel like there are three, as a child, when you're a kid, I feel like there are 3 times of the year that you have the fondest memories and mean the most to you. One is summertime. Period. Because no school, you and your friends, it's summer. The second being Halloween, and the third being Christmas. I think those are the 3 times of year that most kids have the strongest memories. Everybody goes back to school in September, but then October is like that first moment. Halloween is the first, like, we can have fun again. We can be kids. We can be silly. We can be dumb. We can dress up. Yeah, and we get candy. And then Christmas comes along. And then after Christmas, you're pretty much just waiting for summer.
Yeah.
As like an 8-year-old kid.
Your birthday's probably the only other day. I guess.
But everybody's
that
birthday
just came to mind.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it could be anywhere.
Totally. Yeah. But everybody's birthday is a different time of year. Yeah. So I think universally in the United States anyway, universally summer, Halloween, and Christmas are the 3 times a year that every kid kind of looks forward to.
I can agree with that.
I feel that maybe that's what if he's embodying the child. Like if like this child embodies himself, maybe that's why he made this this blend of Christmas and Halloween, where it's like it could go either way because this was such a, important memories. He had so many memories around those two holidays when he was a child, and Halloween was a completely different holiday than it is today.
Oh, for sure. It's completely different. Yeah.
Today it's all about horror movies and it's all about parties and it's all about, but back then it was really just about kids getting costumes and
Candy,
going trick-or-treating and doing silly pranks on each other and getting their candy at the end of the night and going home, and then the day's over. Now it's like Halloween's a month-long event.
It's 2 months long, 3 months long at this point.
Even when we were kids, Halloween was one day.
One
Even
month.
the day
it
before.
was one day.
The day before you weren't putting your costume on. You weren't celebrating it in 20 years ago.
Unless there was a Halloween party like the weekend before or something, which I did go to as a kid. So.
Yes, some towns did it early. Like if Halloween was on a Monday or Tuesday, the town would celebrate it on Saturday, so all the kids could participate.
And I wanted to highlight that just because of, Haunted Hangover, Halloween is it with us, you know what I mean? So it's like...
You think so?
I've been wanting to cover this movie for a while. It's one of the, Halloween, and I use air quotes because technically, again, it's not all set on Halloween, but I consider it a Halloween movie, and I think it is a good watch during the Halloween season, personally speaking. I will say the Christmas scenes are done very well, too. They're fantastic. They captured Christmas, the essence of Christmas in those scenes, but I feel it doesn't really play into the plot too much. It's more so just because Frankie even says it, time is just passing by, and next thing you know, it's Christmas.
See, but I don't feel like Halloween plays into the plot much either. I feel like it's okay. It takes place on Halloween, but I don't think that it's a plot device.
It's not a plot device. I think it's
just a thing.
Yeah,
it just happens to be Halloween, but that's why I feel like he. Yeah. That's why I feel like he did it on purpose. Like he was trying to emulate the time rather than this happened because it was Halloween.
Come out, Danny! Oh, shut up!
All right? Sure.
Did you find your cigarettes? I put them in the drain.
Another character I fucking love in this movie is Frankie's grandfather. I just
Jesus!
Think it's so silly.
He wanted nothing to do with anyone.
Dude, it's so fucking silly. But it's such a grandpa thing. That's what I fucking love about it. So throughout the film, Frankie's grandfather, I don't have his name in the notes. It's just Frankie's grandfather. All he wants to do, and it's an ongoing joke, all he wants is to be left the fuck alone and smoke a cigarette.
Yep.
But he's constantly being attacked by his wife, Frankie's grandmother, or getting caught by Gino. If you notice, Gino's always stumbling upon him smoking, and I just love it. It brings a lot of levity to a pretty dark movie because most of the movie is dark and bleak. But I just love it, dude. He's out by the backyard smoking a cigarette. He's down in the basement smoking a cigarette. And every time, there's one scene I think where the door smacks in his face and destroys the cigarette as he's enjoying it. So the man can't just be left alone to chill and smoke a cigarette. I love it, man.
He just wants to be left alone.
It's so funny. They literally cast that actor just to do that. He falls in the bathtub. Yep. His cigarettes are in the
drainage.
Smoking.
That's it. He's like, I just want to have one cigarette in peace.
And they
just
talk.
one.
They yell at each other in Italian, like "Mamma mia!" They do all that. So I just thought it was fucking great, and I loved it. The other character I want to shine a light on is Donald, played by Jared Rushton.
Jared Rushton,
always plays a bully or a shitty kid. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Pet Sematary 2. Yep. He's always a shitty kid. And in this movie, he's pretty shitty. He's got a line. He's got a line in this movie.
Canceled.
He'd be canceled. I wasn't even going to say that, but yes.
He would be canceled.
Well, it was in the script.
The movie itself, that would have been edited out. Today, this would be edited out. Yes.
Yes.
They would totally cut that scene out.
The character of Donald, played by Jared Rushton, drops the N-word with a hard R.
Multiple times.
Yes.
A couple of times in one scene. In one scene.
Yes, they're playing it up that he's racist.
Yes.
That's, again, going back to what we said earlier. It's probably the only time where you hear
It's
that
as
those words.
where it's as overt. Yes.
And, we're looking at it from a 2023 perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind 1988, not that it was right, but it was a different world.
1962.
Well, this is 1962, but
That's what I'm saying. It came out in 88, but
even in 88, it's like you watch certain movies. And,
it was
it's a
still
different time.
It was still there, yeah.
But seeing it now, seeing a child say it, even I forgot. I put it on. I was like, "Oh shit!" You know what I mean? I was like, "I forgot he says that." But they make the character of Donald really. He says he curses. He says shit a couple times. He's got this one line that made me chuckle. I do like that for Halloween he's dressed as the devil, so it just works into the character being shitty. And he's got a line where he says it's colder than a witch's tit. He literally says that.
Yes.
Which is
colder than a witch's tit out here.
It's colder than a witch's tit. And it's just funny to see this like 9-year-old saying this shit. And to go back to another previous episode where we picked our favorite costumes from favorite Halloween costumes from a film. Dave chose his Jared Rushton's costume from Pet Sematary 2 with the stocking on his head and all that shit. So I just love how this guy just pops up in movies and he's always a shitty, bratty, horrible child. Like that's what he plays in
typecasting.
Dude, even when the teacher...
He's good at it, too.
Yeah, he is. He's good at playing a piece of shit. That's basically what this guy... And you don't see him in stuff anymore. I wonder what happened to him. I know he's around still, but you don't really see him in stuff. He's not... He's very much a child actor that just kind of vanished.
Disappeared, yeah.
Yeah, like just maybe retired and stopped acting, or maybe he popped up in little, TV here and there maybe, but...
I'm curious.
There is a scene too with him that I mentioned it before, that they're in class and the teacher, they have a limbo pole and she's kind of going, under the limbo pole, and they keep bringing the limbo pole lower so that Donald
can lift her dress.
Can lift her skirt and look underneath. And I'm like, and she's completely oblivious to it.
Completely. Raise it.
I know,
oh, Jesus Christ.
My man's fucking getting a peek at fucking all the goods down there. So it's just fucking, he's great in this fucking movie as just like a shitty kid.
As a quick aside, the teacher, Lucy Lee Flippin, talking about... Yes, Lucy Lee Flipping, talking about typecasting. Now, she's been in a bunch of movies since like the 70s, okay? But the teacher role. Now, I'm going to go mostly, I'm looking at her IMDb. I'm going to go mostly on the films where she's just called Mrs. something, or something that's obvious, So in Surf 2, she was Mrs. Big Head. Yes. She was the librarian in an Amazing Stories episode. Substitute teacher Ms. Cura in Summer School. Lady in White, Grace Ladella. She was Mrs. Jennings in Small Wonder. She was the school nurse Mimosa in My Mom's a Werewolf.
Oh my God.
Mrs. Palmer in the TV show Valerie. She was the library manager in Beverly Hills 90210. She was the school nurse Nancy in Erie, Indiana.
Wow.
Miss Fellman in Shoot the Moon. Ms. Morlock in Lady Killer. Mrs. Kale in Soccer Dog. She made a cottage industry of just being the substitute teacher.
She's literally a teacher, a school nurse, or a librarian.
She works at a school.
That's basically it.
But she has that look.
What a career.
Seriously, that's it.
Yeah. I'm sure she did well with all these roles too.
It seems like it. She hasn't done anything since 2008.
Wow.
But yeah.
Jay, listen, man. She was cashing those checks. She's good to go from all those movies.
Yeah.
She didn't need to work anymore. She was keeping busy throughout all the 70s and 80s.
She was everyone's teacher
in every fucking movie.
And
she's great, dude. So
she is. Like we said that kind of jokingly, and then I started looking through this, and I'm like, holy shit, she really was. I can't picture her as anything but a teacher.
And there's a reason why. So there you go.
Hi, guys. Hey, what's up, man? Nothing. We're going to the cottage. You want to come? No. I promised my dad I'd be home before dark. Besides, I have to finish delivering these greeting cards. What's the matter? Afraid the lady in white will get you? No. Then what are you waiting for? Hop on.
All right, so real quick, just about the overall plot. What I love about Lady in White, and you don't really see it much in movies in general, I think, is that it's this really dark story about these children looking, trying to solve a murder. And there's not a lot of comedy besides the grandfather. I think is probably the most comedic aspect of the movie. It's him in reality. Mm-hmm. But overall, the tone's really dark. And I can't think of too many movies where children are in peril and there's actual risk. Like, one of them can die. You know what I mean? And I think in this movie, you feel it, and it's done well. And I can't think of too many other... Can you? Too many other movies?
Not where, like...
there is actual risk in the film.
Yeah, that's what it... Like, you can think of the Goonies and, like, Monster Squad, but there was no point where you actually thought these kids were going to die.
E.T.
Because it's just so lightly
like E.T. I never thought Elliot was going to be murdered or any of the kids. Like Drew Barrymore.
Like,
you know what I mean?
More the teenagers, like Fear No Evil.
Yes.
Which is Laloja's previous
first film. Yeah.
I believed that something could happen to those, but they were older.
These
were older teenagers. I did believe that they were in real danger at some points because he was fucking killing people. But yeah, as kids, it's rare.
Where you're taken back, like, oh shit, this guy is killing children. Like, there's one or two films I can think of that are more contemporary. Like, what is it? Lovely Bones. A little bit reminds me of this.
Another boring movie.
Or, there you go. You see, Manny's not a fan of that one. Or Summer of 84? Summer of 84.
That was good.
But they're teenagers in that. Yeah. They're like preteen teenagers.
Yeah, the Fright Night age, the Disturbia age, that Rear Window age, they're generally older.
Well, where if you think about it, entire franchises of film are teenagers being slaughtered.
They're all teenagers.
There's no...
Yeah,
I guess
but like
stakes.
10-year-olds.
Yes.
Yeah, 10-year-olds that might actually die. Yes.
And when violence happens in this film, it's pretty rough for a PG-13 movie. Like Frankie gets cut, he gets choked out. The guy's the serial killer is an abuser of children too in other manners. Yeah. It's implied. So pretty dark shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah, that scene where he's teaching him to...
oh, God. We're going to get into the big reveal of who the killer is.
Yeah. The arrows.
The arrow. Oh, God.
He's like, wow, dude, they went from to, wow, like you haven't given it away. So I'm just...
That scene?
You went from, oh, cool, he's being taught to shit. Holy shit.
He's creepy.
Whoa.
That's a good segue to go into the ending of the film and the reveal of what happens in the movie.
That's where, if you haven't picked up by now, that is the moment where it becomes painfully obvious, this is the fucking guy.
He's the fucking killer.
Yes.
So in the movie, Frankie's dad has a childhood friend from high school, I believe, named Phil. And he comes in and out of the movie. I thought
it was his brother.
I believe it's a child. He
treats him like a brother, though.
It's like Frankie's uncle. Yeah, he's like that friend that's been around your entire life.
Yeah,
and
he treats him like a brother. Yeah. So, he's family.
Like you said, there's a whole scene where he's teaching him. It's an ongoing subplot where he shoots an arrow and he calls him Broken Arrow. Yeah, the character of Phil. And also throughout the film, we meet this woman played by Katherine Hellman, who they treat as kind of like the crazy lady in town who try to burn down her house, and all she does is play the piano and live alone. And they call her the Lady in White. She's kind of the Lady in White to the kids in town. She's the legend.
Yeah, she's the local legend. Yeah.
She's that house.
She's the
Stay
creepy
away
lady.
from
don't
that
go
house.
there on Halloween night. Don't cross. Yeah.
And
throw you in a pot of oil.
Yeah. So when the reveal happens that Phil is the killer, and there's a lot of shit going on in the movie. Basically, that Lady in White is actually the sister of Melissa's mother. So that's her aunt. And she went crazy because her niece and sister died. Because the real ghostly figure, Lady in White, that we see a couple times throughout the movie, killed herself. That woman, Melissa's mother, killed herself after finding Melissa's body. And they want to be reunited. And the character that Katherine Hellman played is just a sibling. She's kind of throwaway, and that's another problem I have in the film. She's kind of pointless.
She's the
She's the fake out.
It's just ridiculous.
It's pointless.
We start getting in. This is the sorts of the things that it's just like, okay. Besides,
convoluted. It's convoluted.
Besides thinking that the pacing was just fucking abysmal, I feel like it was just so slow.
She didn't need to be in it. She didn't need to be in the movie at all.
We see the ghost of the little girl, and then we see this lady in white that saves or becomes Lucas's vision at least twice. At least twice in the film.
You only see her a small handful of times in the movie.
She's a vision, and she saves him from the killer. You know, she saves him.
Well, she becomes. It's a combination of both things. Yeah, and the vision.
But she's a vision. So when we get to the house in the end, suddenly he wakes up in the bedroom and she's talking to him, and it's like, okay, it's another vision. And then the killer grabs her and starts choking her. And it's like, wait. So you're telling me this entire time she wasn't fucking dead yet? She's still a human being living in this fucking house?
Yeah,
how is he
weird.
seeing visions of her if she's alive?
Yeah,
and then
weird.
she's the lady in white he's been seeing. And then when we get to the end, the actual lady in white is the dead girl's dead mother. And we see now a new vision of her floating above, and she's the one that saves him from falling off the cliff at the end. You know, she's floating. Yeah, she's there. No, there is a bit of her as I just watched the theatrical cut, and there is her. She is floating over the sky. You see,
Melissa and her reunite. Yeah.
So you do see her, but it's like, so wait a minute. So the woman who we thought was another spirit the whole time is actually just the town crazy lady, and she's been human the whole time. How is this possible?
I don't think that's what it is. I took it as the lady in white. So I think it's like a bad twist. Both reveals are kind of bad twists.
Yes.
So Phil's reveal as the killer, the family friend being the killer, in your face, obvious. Whatever. He's the killer, and Frankie knows his identity, so he wants to kill Frankie. That's that whole deal. The lady in white is where it gets a little kind of strange, is because you've got this one character who's the town crazy and lives in this house alone. And she's related to Melissa and Melissa's mother.
Yes.
And she is just a crazy lady. She just exists.
But how?
I think what the film was trying to do was make you think she was the lady in white.
She's
when in reality,
but
it was the spirit of the mother separately in the visions.
See, but it's not, because it's clearly Mona.
Yeah, it's weird.
When she's floating down the stairs and they all run from her.
It's a different actress.
That's what I'm saying. Later in the end.
Yeah,
but during the course of the film, it's her.
Yeah,
you see her on the stairs,
weird.
and it's like, wait a minute! I thought she's not a ghost. She's been alive. How is this? This
I don't know.
so.
It's weird.
I think when I first watched it, I watched the director's cut, and that's why it was longer. And it was much slower. And now I watched the theatrical cut, and I did feel like it was paced better. Like it moved a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But the movie feels like it was 4 different movies that he had ideas for, and he just crammed them all together. There's so much. This movie. It feels like a Christmas Story. It feels like a Halloween movie. It feels at some points it feels like a fucking Steven Spielberg movie in some points. It even sounds like it even sounds like the soundtrack sounds like a Spielberg movie. Then there's the weird ghost story element, which never really I feel like it wanted to be a little bit of a horror movie, and it never does that. It wants to be a kids movie, and it never does that. It wants to be a murder mystery. It never really does that. There's so many elements in this. Then there's the serial killer. So we have a stalk and kill type movie, and it never does that. And it wants to be an urban legend, and it never really does that. It never.
Oh my God.
I feel like there's elements of all of this mixed in there, and it never truly decides what type of movie it really is. It's it's just an amalgam of everything he liked. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do that. Throw it all together and shit.
So I see where you're coming from. I get it.
But you wholeheartedly disagree.
No, I don't disagree with everything you're saying because so the character of Amanda, her name's Amanda, the sister.
Yes. Mona.
Yes, Mona from
Who's the Boss.
She is kind of my biggest issue with the movie. I still love this movie. I don't hate it like you do. Sure. I enjoy it. I think her character is throwaway, unnecessary.
Yep.
You could have just had, and that goes back to the director's cut, you could have just had the ghost, the mother, the actual lady in white,
been the actual
throughout, be the hero of the movie at the end.
She could have been the visual through the whole movie.
And in the director's cut, when we get to some differences, there's only a couple I have written down in my notes here. She is kind of the hero of the film. In the theatrical version, she shows up, but she's not really as important to the final battle between Frankie and Phil at the edge of the cliff, because that's where Phil throws Melissa's body after he strangles and kills her. But I think Amanda that character is the main problem in the plot to me, because when she does reveal herself and she does, help, I guess, because she's crazy, help Frankie with tying him. She doesn't tie him, but she places him in the bed after Phil chases him. Yep. She's just like she's just like a psycho. Like she's fucking schizophrenic or something. And then Phil just kills her. They have a scuffle, kills her.
He chokes her. Yeah, she's talking over him and he chokes her from behind. And
it's like, okay, she didn't need to be in it, but it is what it is. I kind of look past it as best as I can, but I will admit that's what makes the ending kind of convoluted and all over the place. And even us describing it right now, it's like it would have been a lot simpler for Frankie to get knocked unconscious, end up in the house, and it's kind of like the spirit helped him. The lady in white, spirit lady in white, not Amanda lady in white.
The girl's mother, the dead mother, I do have a question, though. This is something maybe I missed it. When was the little girl killed? How long ago?
10
she
years.
was 10 years ago she was killed.
Yeah.
Why is this fucking guy suddenly now looking for his ring the exact night that he's locked in the closet?
That's just
10 years later he decided, holy shit, my ring has been down there the whole time.
So I think, and I might be wrong here,
I'll
what it
accept
is that vent, he always went back to it to kind of throw away something on the kid. So like an artifact. Like that was like his trophy.
Because there is a hair clip in there. So maybe,
soldier.
Okay, so he wasn't going to retrieve the ring. He was going to add his ring. Maybe. Okay. Maybe that the fact that his ring fell down there the first time, he always came back to take it when he took an artifact from and he dumped it down there. Okay.
Like a memento. Like that's kind of what I took it as.
That makes sense. Fine.
Maybe his most recent kill, he dug his hand down there and the ring fell off. That's what I am assuming. That's what I took it as.
How beautiful she was. And how she loved her little girl. She lived and died for her. I wanted to die too, but they wouldn't let me. What is the good of living when all that you love is gone?
I want to mention one more thing that I kind of have a problem with the movie. Besides the Amanda character being throwaway, the killing of Willie, the janitor. I thought it was super mean-spirited.
It was.
Did not need to be in the movie.
No,
I get what they were going for, where that mother, her son was killed, and she thinks that he got away with it. He was set free because Willie they find him as an innocent man, basically. The court, he didn't do it. They let him free. And then I believe her son's name was Richie. She says, I'm sorry to him, and then fucking shoots him in the head in a pretty graphic, like Tony Montana, Scarface style
in the car,
execution.
Through the fucking window of the car.
In front of his wife, who already has had like a fucking nervous breakdown.
And then she takes the bullet. Like the bullet goes through him, and through the window, and into the wife's shoulder.
It's an
So
effective scene. It's
he's
done
sitting
well.
in the car, just
Yeah.
for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
He's sitting in a car, I think in the back seat of the car.
Yes.
And this woman shoots through the back window to shoot him in the head. And the wife happened to be just outside the car, like she was about to get in or something.
Yeah.
And so she shoots through the window, shoots this guy in the head, and the wife, just like in shock, walks away. And then Frankie's father, again, in another moment to help her, he runs to her to help her and console her and turns her around. And as he touches, he has blood on his hands.
It's a good scene.
It's great. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautifully done scene.
It's mean-spirited as shit.
And he realizes there's a hole in her chest, which means he shot the fucking the janitor right through his head,
through the
into
head,
the mother, into her shoulder, and now the bullet is in her. Holy fuck, man. Jesus.
Yeah, it was unnecessary. Like, they could have ended the film with kind of something happy. Come on. Like,
I would say that was the one scene that maybe is really driving home the racism. It's really, like, maybe that's what it was. It was about the fact that they refused to believe that anyone other than him could have killed this kid.
See, I didn't take it as the mother being racist, but the mother just being, like, thinking he did it. Like, she's so kind of cuckoo at this point because her child was killed, you know?
I don't mean like she killed him because he was black. Yes. I mean that because of the time that it was. It's so ingrained in everyone. Yeah. To feel that way towards a black man. Yeah. That it wasn't like no, he's black. It's just that it's impossible for her to believe otherwise because everyone at that time believed that they were just bad to begin with.
Oh,
that
for sure.
Black people were bad. So it was, everybody was so just inherently racist. It wasn't a conscious thought. It was just, of course he did it. He's black. Of course he killed his kids. And like that type of, it's still racism.
Yeah, it's racism. It's mean-spirited. Yes. I feel like it would have been much better to just let Willie... he's innocent, and they set him free. Unnecessary. Just like the Amanda character.
They could have even had everybody go after the car and try and get her in the car and drive him off. And
maybe she tries to shoot him. He didn't have to die. Yeah, it was... Yeah. I just didn't like it. Like, even watching it back now, and I've seen this a couple times, I'm like, it's still, like, unnecessary. It's kind of like the little girl in Assault on, and I love Assault on Precinct 13, and that her dying in Assault on Precinct 13 makes more sense than this guy being killed in Lady in White. Like, the little girl in Assault on Precinct 13 being shot by the gang member literally drives the plot of the
how
entire
horrible of a
film.
person he is. Yeah.
Well, no, that's why in Assault on Precinct 13 the siege happens, because he ends up in the precinct. And that's where it
creates the character that this is. Yeah, that's what I mean. What a horrible person he. Exactly. Yeah.
In this movie, it's like a shocking moment just to be shocking, So
because we never go back to it. It never has anything to do with the end of the film.
Dude, you never see his wife again.
No, nothing to do with anything.
You take it that this woman is gonna go fucking crazy, defeated, and her daughter is gonna just be fucking just deal with trauma her entire life. Like, I just didn't like it. Uncalled for. Unnecessary. That's probably the biggest thing I dislike about this movie. And I, unlike you, enjoy the rest of it. Let's jump into the physical release of this. And the copy we both watched. We both watched the Scream Factory release. I believe this is from I'm looking at it right now. I think it's
2013, I think it was.
2013, 2014. Yeah, it's been a few years. I don't have the date on here.
Scream
my bad.
Factory.
My fault.
2016.
2016. I had a feeling it was 2015, 2016.
2016, yeah.
We both watched this version.
The right 2-disc.
I'm showing it off if you're watching the video version of the episode.
I was like, wait, what cover is that? Nope, I flipped my cover.
I flipped mine. I prefer the inside, the original artwork with him with the mask, with the Lucas Haas's face on it and the little house at the bottom. This is a great release, first and foremost. I think they did a fantastic job. Yeah. A lot of it is stuff that was ported over from that MGM DVD we talked about earlier.
Yep.
So this is what's on it. You've got the director's cut. There's a commentary track by Frank LaLoggia. it's the original commentary track, I believe, from that same DVD release.
Mm-hmm.
As well, there's an introduction by him. There's deleted scenes, and none of the deleted scenes have been remastered. They're just raw deleted scenes.
Yeah.
A lot of unnecessary shit. It's about 30 minutes. The thing I like the most on this special edition is there's two pieces, and one of them is new for this release. So the first one is about 36 minutes-ish of behind-the-scenes footage, just raw behind-the-scenes footage that Frank LaLoggia had someone shoot while he was making Lady in White. Great stuff. It's just, it's cool to see how enthusiastic he was making this movie. And it goes back to what I said earlier. This is a movie he wanted to make. I'll be very honest, through the commentary, I kind of skimmed through this because I had watched this movie twice already. So I kind of just skimmed through the commentary because I just wanted to get a taste of it. And you could tell he talks about his past a lot. He talks about his inspiration for the movie. And you could just tell he is really proud of making this. And for this release, there's even more behind. There's like another hour of behind-the-scenes footage of them just making the film. And it's fucking great, dude. I loved it. I actually sat through it and had it on in the background while I was editing other shit and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's fucking fantastic. Everything else is just kind of, trailers, photo gallery, stuff like that. Just, basic stuff you find on, most DVDs and Blu-ray releases. And then there's the original theatrical cut, because this is a 2-disc set, the extended director's cut. So there's the director's cut, then there's an extended director's cut on the second disc. So you have three versions.
2 hours,
of this.
almost 2 hours and 10 minutes almost. Jesus.
Yes. You've got literally 3 versions of this movie on here. So you've got Manny's worst nightmare on this 2-disc set, basically.
Jesus, I wouldn't go that far.
Of Lady in White.
There is a movie that is one of my worst nightmares. I will not name that one live, though. I will not say that.
Maybe we'll cover that in the future.
No, we will not cover it.
I'm just kidding. So there is a movie Manny hates more than Lady in White.
No, there's quite a. This is a this is a well-made movie for the most part. It's well shot. It has good performances. It has good atmosphere. It's just slow and convoluted, and it just kept going.
I get it.
This is nowhere near one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I would still give this like a 2 to me, 2.5 stars for me. Just
out of 10 or 5?
Out of 5.
Okay, all right. So,
out of 5. Letterboxd.
We're letterboxing it. So you'd give it a 2.5. Gotcha.
2.5 out of 5. Yes.
Gotcha.
Which is still like what, 40%, 35%.
A little under half.
So,
I'll say this, and this kind of is where I was kind of hinting at in the beginning. I think Lady in White is the ghost version of E.T. to an extent. I'm a big E.T. fan. I love E.T. E.T. is a far superior film.
Kids on Halloween, my God.
Yeah, I will admit that. It hits, exactly. Mm-hmm. It hits a lot of the same kind of beats. Halloween, a kid becoming friends. In this case, it's a ghost, not an alien. Mm-hmm. Him having to team up with his sibling to kind of, help this thing, the MacGuffin of the film, in this case, a ghost. So there's a lot of parallels, and the films were made a couple of years apart, and you hinted at Spielberg, and you hinted at a couple other things. And it's obvious Frank LaLoggia was trying to create kind of that type of film, that Ray Bradbury, which I also said earlier, type of story. Mm-hmm. And I think he 80%, 85% succeeded. And I think the film does a decent job kind of creating that atmosphere, creating that vibe, and telling that type of story. And, again, set on Halloween, and there's just no way for me not to love it. And I think it's somewhat underrated. I think you would disagree with me, Manny. Manny's like, it needs to stay fucking way under. And if you haven't seen Lady in White, give it a shot. If you want to take my words for it, maybe Manny would tell you not to watch it, but I think it's worth one watch.
Don't you know where you'd like to be going? To my home, in my own bed. My mommy's lost and I can't find her. Will you help me find her?
So that was Manny's favorite movie of all time. Top 5 for him, Lady in White.
Nope.
Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @Haunted Hangover. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/hauntedhangover31.
And make sure to rate and review us. Let us know who you agree with. Okay, put that in your review and rate and review us so this way other people can find us easier in the algorithm. That's what the kids call it today, right? The algorithm.
They do.
The algorithm of the night.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
a lot more booze.
Manny needs it after Lady in White. Catch you guys later.